But let's start with letting you guys know that all our YNA conversations are on our youth YouTube channel, called the Crossing Youth, which Sanj's just gonna pop that up on the screen real quick here, just to show you guys. And so here it is. You guys can check out all the ones that you might have missed. But yeah, that's where you can find us. Subscribe, and so you can get all the newest and latest. But excited about that. And then so here today we have I call them Uncle Jim and Auntie Karina. We've had the privilege, my family and also the Emmons family, for some of you guys that know us, we've all been able to just grow up with their family, and it's been really awesome just watching them. And I just found out today they're 27, soon to be 27 years of marriage, which is really cool to see that example. So super excited about that. And just quickly, let me let you guys know that if you guys have any questions during the conversation, just to put it in the chat, and when we get closer to the end, we'll be able to answer some of those questions. And so from now, let's start with prayer, and then we'll get to hear a little bit from Uncle Jim and Auntie Karina. Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all that you've done for us. Thank you that we're able to just come together once again and continue out this our mission, our youth group mission, and just being able to add value where we can and serve and bless others. And thank you for Uncle Jim and Auntie Karina being willing to add value and speak wisdom and through their experience. And I pray that you can speak through them, and that we can touch one person, or we can touch multiple, and that we're able to just bless others. In your name we pray, amen. All right, so since a lot of you guys don't know Uncle Jim and Auntie Karina, I'm gonna have them share a quick 2, 3, 4 minutes background of themselves, so we can get a better idea of what we're dealing with here.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Can't see anyone.
Except Braden. Hi, Braden. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hey. Who are we?
Well, I'm Karina. This is James.
Yeah, we met in high school back at PAA, back at Parkview Adventist Academy a long time ago. Let's just say that.
I was 16. James was 17.
17, yeah.
Yeah. Very young. We've told our kids they don't have to repeat that. Doesn't necessarily go that way. But yeah, we've been blessed for sure all these years. Yeah.
We dated 5.5 years. Yeah, as much as that generation was different, and it was a little bit different kind of maturity than now, we also knew that we needed to mature even more. So we knew that we would date through college.
Yeah, I definitely had plans to go to college. That included actually going out of the country. So I went away for 2 years in college, and we continued to date through that time. Definitely it was a challenge for our relationship, but I think it really, our phone bills were ridiculous, like in the hundreds of dollars.
So get this, my food budget was $50 and my phone bill was $400. Wow.
Yeah, maybe our priorities were a little mixed up.
It was not good. Yeah.
No, but I think it was important. It was an important time, especially because we started dating so young. We needed that distance to kind of clear our heads a little bit and to really refocus us and make sure that, you know, we knew what we wanted, even though we thought we did. But I think that distance really tested it and proved it to be true. Yeah.
So Karina went on to be a dental hygienist from Loma Linda, California, and I got my master's in marriage and family therapy training from CUC Loma Linda.
Yeah. And then we worked for a bit. Jim took his master's for 2 years after we got married. So I worked and he was in school full time. And then we moved to BC. We moved to Kelowna to start our new life together. That was Jim's dream to live in Kelowna. So we did that, and life took some pretty rapid turns. Wasn't all what we expected when we moved here, but it all worked out. We have 4 kids. We have
awesome kids.
Yeah, they're awesome. the one married daughter, one daughter that's moved out of the house and on her own now, Vanessa, she's part of the crossing. And then 2 at home still, one graduating high school this June, and our youngest son, we have 3 girls and a boy, he's 14. So it's been good. It's been a real good ride.
So Karina operates in a practice, and I have an addiction treatment center that I manage. That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. A quick background. So let's just jump into it. We're going to run through these questions, and then hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions in the comments. But let's get going. Excited to hear you guys' wisdom here. So for our first question, in the Bible, it says that God gives us freedom of choice to choose our spouse. How can we know that we're making the right choice?
Well, choice is really important to God. I mean, it was so important that he was willing to send his son Jesus to die on the cross for us so that we can have choice. So that's how important choice is. But I think that the part of the question to maybe really look at is, what's the right person? So you want to make sure one that has similar values, similar purpose, you have a lot of things in common, that your spiritual life is unified, that there's unity, that God is first. You also want to make sure that your dreams are similar. Like, it's not like you can I totally met somebody last weekend, we're into underwater basket weaving, and we're going to get married this coming week. You don't just do that, right? Like, you got to find the right person. So it's got to be somebody that has a lot of the similar things. You want to have the same kind of kids. If you're going to have 10 kids and the other person doesn't want to have any, that's going to be a problem. So you want to make sure that a lot of beliefs and values that are in line.
Yeah, I think too, and this was a big part of our relationship when we were dating, is we got feedback from people that we trusted and that who knew us well, and we kind of opened ourselves up for that feedback, both from friends that knew us mutually, and then from our pastor and my parents. Not so much your parents. We didn't really counsel with them. They were having a lot of issues, so they were kind of out of the picture. So we opened ourselves up for honest feedback, I guess, and we were willing to listen to that.
Yeah, for people that had fruit on their tree, right? Like, you don't want to just take advice and counsel from anybody. You want to make sure that they're qualified to give that advice. Yeah.
I mean, I think definitely prayer is also an important part of knowing if you're making the right decision. And with prayer, I think sometimes we tend to rush it. We pray, we get up, we go do our day, and we don't really give God time to speak to us. It's like we pray, we throw it out there, but we don't listen for his answer. So I think part of prayer is actually pausing and giving God time to speak to us and opening ourselves up to hear that, not just rushing on blindly and insisting on doing what we're going to do anyways, right? Well, I prayed about it, so it's going to work out. Well, maybe you need to slow down and listen to what God's really saying.
Another thing with making the right choices, at some point you have to make a decision. You actually have to decide. And then I also believe that it's a daily decision too, to be in a relationship with somebody, to be married to somebody. It's not just I do and then that's it. It's, Paul talks about how I die daily, right? And I think that it's a very similar thing with marriage, that it's a daily decision to stay married. That it's that kind of a priority. Today, I'm going to work things out. I'm going to make things happen. Last week, Harold did a great talk, and one of the things he mentioned was, a car analogy, relationships like cars, where you make a decision to buy a car, you take a course, you buy a license. So, that makes you a driver, but doesn't make you a good driver, doesn't make a right marriage, a right relationship. Because there's still things like you have to have really good training. You have to follow and obey the laws every day when you're driving. There has to be maintenance. So to me, making the right choice is a continual decision that you have. So,
yeah, from that, my understanding of that is just, well, first, like you said, what is the right person? Because you want to make sure that you're in line with each other. Like, and this is a conversation that I have with many people like my age that are currently dating. It's first asking yourself before you enter a relationship, are you guys heading on the same path, same values, same dreams and goals? And that's really key, because then you go down the line further into your relationship and these conversations come up and you're not in that same mindset or same, right? And then also just that one was key, because for myself, if I want 6 kids, I got to make sure the woman or spouse that I'm interested in also wants 6 kids. So that was key. That one made a lot of sense to myself. And then also just praying and pausing, which is key, because I know for myself, a lot of times I just pray, like you said, Auntie Karina, and then you just go on with your day, throwing it out there, but didn't actually being able to pause and wait for God's response, which was really key. And okay, so that made a lot of sense. Let's go on to the second question that we have here. Does God have a spouse in plan for everyone, or yeah?
Well, that's a really broad question. And it's hard for us to answer that specifically for everyone who may be listening, right? I think in general, yes, God designed marriage. It was his design, it was his idea from the very beginning of the world. So I would say yes, but does he have one specific person in mind for you?
So get that. First of all, because I do marriage counseling, I've noticed a very interesting trend that whoever is serious about marriage gets pre-marriage counseling. People think that you have to have problems to get pre-marriage counseling. On the contrary, to me, it's about laying the right foundations. It's just an interesting observation that people are really serious about it, they get pre-marriage counseling. But when we got pre-marriage counseling, I answered one of the questions wrong. It was bad. The Pastor Spangler, he told me, well, that's a romantic notion that Karina is the only person in the world that you could marry, James. That's a nice thought that you have. But he said, it's just not true. There are many, many people that you could marry in the world. Maybe not millions, but there's 7 billion people. So, there are a lot of different people that you could marry. But to me, the bigger question that somebody should be asking themselves is, are you ready for marriage? Like that really it's about you. Are you ready to attract a spouse? For example, a joke, one of the jokes in our house between Vanessa and Elise was, Angela, it was, you have to be old enough to date. And it's not just an age thing, but there's maturity process and so on, because wouldn't it be lame if your parents had to drive you everywhere on dates because you were just too young to even be able to drive? Like, that would be so lame. But we definitely, we definitely encourage that you have to be a whole person, and then you start the dating process. For those of you who know math, 1/2 of a person multiplying another half of a person equals a quarter. You're just magnifying and multiplying your problems. Whereas if you're a whole person plus a whole person, you're adding to each other's lives, but you're already whole. Either it equals 2, or it can add up to 11. 1 and 1, it can be 11. Like, God can really multiply that if you have all the right things in your foundation. So, I also think that there's this notion that people sometimes say, I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna date. I'm gonna wait for God to bring this person to my life. I'm not gonna date. Well, there's a challenge with that. God doesn't necessarily steer parked cars. Like, you have to be moving. Mm-hmm. You have to be out there. You have to be developing yourself. You have to know what you're looking for. You have to be looking for, people with like-minded purpose, and you know, you have to be moving. So yeah, those are just a few of our thoughts.
Yeah, and just because maybe you're waiting for someone and it seems like they're not coming around, you know, maybe there's something that God's working on in you still that isn't ready for that person. That, you know, does he have someone in mind for you? I mean, we've prayed for our kids as future spouses since they were babies, right? Like, yeah. So I think God's hand is in it for sure. I pray for God's blessing and guidance for ourselves and for our kids. But I think our choices and how we choose to develop ourselves and what we do with all that plays in a factor too.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. In your guys' initial like meeting each other and dating process, what was your thoughts like on, is this the person for me, or like was she the one or was he the one? Or was that ever a thought, or was
initial challenge, which is Karina couldn't look past my beach bod. It was I have a personality, I have a character.
Whatever. That's a loaded question, because before we started dating, we had a mutual friend who is still to this day one of my very best friends. And I have known her since I was 11, I think. She went to grade school with Jim. And anyway, so we knew each other in high school. And she said, Karina, I know someone who wants to date you, and I think you should date him. But I'm telling you, if you date him, you're going to want to marry him. And I was 16. I'm like, I don't want to be getting married. I'm 16. I've got plans. College was in my future. I was not planning to get married right out of high school. And I kind of thought, well, why would I date someone when I'm not going to be getting married for 5-6 years at least? Mm-hmm. Kind of seemed like a waste of time when I was so young. But then I paused and I thought about it. And I'm like, well, if my very best friend is saying I would want to marry him, why would I pass that up? Like, if he's really that great, it'll work out in time, right? So I kind of had that thought of marriage from the beginning.
It worked out.
Yeah.
That's awesome, guys.
Yeah.
I really like how you said you went into the math part. Math isn't my strong suit, but you went into that math part of one half of a person times another half of a person, and that's just multiplying the problem equaling 1/4. If I got that correct.
Go back. Yeah. You go backwards. Like.
Yeah. You go backwards. Yeah, and just multiplies that problem, which makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people, I feel like nowadays, don't really focus on becoming that whole person before stepping into a relationship and trying, because a lot of us get into that notion of trying to complete one another. This person completes me. But when two wholes come together, that's when something really powerful happens, which is key. And so that makes a lot of sense. Moving on to our next question here. How do we build a strong and healthy relationship?
Well, yeah, you go ahead first.
You know, there's a lot of great books out there that talk about healthy relationships and healthy marriages. You know, we'd recommend, of course, quite a few. What are some of them? 5 Love Languages. There's a book on Fit to be Tied. There's another one that I really like. It's
Boundaries in Dating.
You Can Be Right or You Can Be Married. It's by an author named Williams. I also think that what's the author out of Willow Creek that was the Pastor Rick Warren has a great book on finding marriage partner, and Saddleback Church, in California, right? So there's some great books, but there's a concept that I've always really liked about healthy relationships, and it's this idea of a building. So downtown Kelowna, and I'll be really quick with this, but downtown Kelowna, we're really close to the water level with the lake, and they're starting to build high rise after high rise. But if you go downtown, there's an old building. It's the first high rise that was built in Kelowna. And if you look very carefully, it's actually tilted, not quite as much as the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but the person in the penthouse can put a ball on the floor and it rolls because it's leaning to one side. So one of the things they realized in building Kelowna, towers in Kelowna was that they needed to preload the land. So they put a lot of dirt on there, it compacts, then they scrape away the dirt after a year or two, then they're like mucking around down in this hole for about a year. Rebar, concrete, it takes forever. And I'm always fascinated with construction stuff. So I drive by and I'm like, man, what are they doing? What are they doing? And then after a year of it, what seems to be nothing, suddenly there's like floor 1, floor 2, and before you even know it, there's this high rise right there. And the most important part of a building is its foundation. It's very similar in relationships. Mm-hmm. The most important part of the relationship is the very beginning, when you're laying down the foundation. There have to be what are called essential building blocks. In engineering, that's called cornerstones, and it's where everything lines up. But these essential building blocks, they're things like trust, honesty, how you handle loneliness, how you handle fear, stuff like that, your spiritual beliefs. So those building blocks are extremely important.
Yeah, and I would just like to say too, I think there's a definite difference between a healthy relationship and a perfect relationship. If you're looking for a perfect relationship, they don't exist. So you can constantly find excuses and reasons and flaws, especially if you're someone who's afraid of commitment, for why it's not going to work out, especially when you look at the statistics of what's out there right now. But a healthy relationship is where there's open communication. It's where there's input and counsel from godly people. It's where you trust and you're honest with each other, right? It's where you discuss and work through your problems, not just run away from them or sweep them under the rug. So healthy and is different than perfect.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that people gave us for advice when we were getting married was don't ever go to bed mad. And we thought it was kind of a cute thing. Like, what does that mean? But in essence, we didn't want to ever have any misgivings towards each other or anger towards each other. And so we would have these long conversations till 3 a.m. just to hammer it out and get a good understanding. And that was so essential, that communication and that commitment to be able to figure things out. One of the things I've noticed in therapy over the years, when it comes to relationships, get this. People would rather be in an abusive relationship sometimes than to be alone. That alone was a bigger problem for them than to be in abuse. So I guess what I'm saying is be patient. Don't rush into something. Be okay with your aloneness, because that's a good time to be able to develop yourself. So yeah, just be patient with yourself. There are also 3 stages of loneliness that I think you have to be aware of. The first one is that there's a void, that you're trying to fill yourself with relationships, and that's not healthy. Then the next stage is busyholic, where you're just constantly working tons to meet people. You're going to church groups to meet people. You're in sports events to meet people, and you're just always busy with the hope of meeting somebody to be in a healthy relationship. And the third stage of loneliness is where you're in this comfortability stage. You're okay. You're okay with yourself. You're okay with who you are and where you're going and where you're heading. And I think that that's when God can lead people across your path, and you can recognize healthy people. It takes healthy people to recognize healthy people. Mm-hmm. And then the last one is in Proverbs chapter 2, verse 26, or chapter 12, verse 26. And it talks about how the righteous choose their friends carefully. The righteous choose their friends carefully. So how much more important is marriage than just friendship with everybody, right? It's so important. And so you really want to be choosing those healthy relationships and healthy partners very carefully and just be patient.
Yeah, and I think you can't think that you're the exception, right? There's basic principles for a healthy relationship, for a healthy marriage. And if you think you can skip by those and get away with it, you're wrong. Like you'll either have a lot of work to do to repair or to fix something when it goes really bad, or else it's not going to work at all and you'll end up a statistic. So how do you build a healthy relationship? Well, don't ignore the principles.
And if it's not healthy, don't be afraid to stop. Put the brakes on the car.
Right.
Stop, slow down, look at what the problems are. Are they fixable? Take a year and figure it out. Like, don't rush through it. Like, really if the problem doesn't disappear after a year, walk away, you know? So yeah.
That's awesome, guys. Lot of wisdom, dude. I was just like, on my paper, I'm taking notes. I'm like all over it. So
Nice.
There's a lot of wisdom. Love it. We got a question. How have you guys beat the stats on being high school sweethearts?
How did we beat the stats? Well, we love each other. What?
Bible class.
Oh yeah. So we were in grade 12, I guess. We took what was the class called? I think it's like called COM now or something, where you plan your life out, right? Like it's this life skills planning class. And so we had to match up with a partner and do grocery shopping together, do a budget, do like all these life things.
Guess who I chose?
We picked each other. And our teacher actually recommended that we not be partners in that class because she said, nobody who's ever been dating in my class and done this exercise together was still dating at the end of the class. They always broke up because the exercise broke them up. They couldn't handle the reality, I guess, or the serious questions like how many kids do you want to have and that kind of stuff. So we looked at each other and we're like, well, that's dumb. Like either we're going to break up anyways, or we're going to figure it out and break up now. Like what's the point of pretending and choosing someone else and having this like fake relationship? So we just went for it.
We weren't afraid to have the harder conversations and we embraced them. We dove in. We had long talks, like so many talks, five years of long talks. So how did we beat the odds? We invested in each other extremely heavily.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we put in, I would say, really good boundaries and foundation from the beginning.
We did. We said no sex before marriage. We were very serious about that. I don't know how many people I just confessed that to, but that's okay. We teach it all the time to our kids and to church. We put up boundaries around our finances, finishing our school. We were both going to finish our education. We were both committed to working hard and to saving up for stuff. So we both had savings accounts. So yeah, there were a lot of boundaries we set. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that we like each other. There's times when it's not so great and we get on each other's nerves and we have the fights and all that for sure. We're both stubborn. We're both firstborn. That's another strike against us. Our teacher told us because we're both firstborn, we're not like compatible. But I think we're both pretty strong-willed, so that works in our favor too.
That's awesome. So you weren't afraid to have those conversations and confrontation, and just because I know a lot of my friends, a lot of them don't like having those strong conversations. So what would you say to, one of my friends on here right now, actually. No, so what would you say to people that aren't willing or don't like confrontation about having those strong conversations initially in the beginning?
Yeah, so there's a really good book called Crucial Conversations, and it just talks about how you've got to plow through those. You've got to have the crucial conversations in order to be able to get to the heart of any issue. And so I don't like confrontation. Other people love it. But I do like problem solving, and I do like exposing something and getting to the heart of it and trying to really understand it and grasp it. And so we just did a lot of problem solving. Now keep in mind, we're not completely compatible. There are a lot of things that I like that she doesn't like. One of us likes to jump off cliffs with parachutes. One of us likes to bungee jump and to drive motorbikes shooting paintballs at the other person. Where I like to sit at home and have long conversations, sipping on tea and sitting on a good book, you know?
Right. No.
So you can be different too, right? Like understand that there are going to be some differences.
Yeah.
I think too, maybe if it's hard to have those conversations, maybe you need to take a step back and maybe you haven't answered some of those basic value questions for yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe that's why you can't have that conversation, because you don't even know what your answer is.
Yeah.
So you're skirting the issue.
That's true. Yeah.
So maybe you need to step back and figure some things out for yourself, and then you can have a conversation.
You said, so you're skirting the issue?
Yeah, like you're going around. Like,
little hip mom. I see it. Sorry, Uncle Jim, you're gonna say?
No, I mean, Proverbs talks about how a wise man has many counselors, right? So sometimes before you can even have that crucial conversation, maybe you need to step back and also consult some of your counselors. Like, who are the people in your life that have good fruit on the tree? Who are the people that you counsel with on a regular basis? What would they say about it? Because sometimes people know you better than you know yourself. So yeah, you want to step back and do some self-reflection before you really dive into that crucial conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another one for, I guess, people with not so good of examples. How do you overcome negative modeling of marriage?
Ooh.
Well, that was Jim for sure. His family life was a mess. His dad, he grew up with an alcoholic dad. A lot of the time for years, they didn't really know where he was because he wasn't coming home at night. He was sleeping in the gutters. Like, it was hard times. When I started dating him, thankfully, that was turning around, and his dad has been clean now and dry for over 30 years, right? So that was really good. Jim did a lot of work on himself, and I think through his program of marriage and family therapy, working through those issues before and like right after we got married.
Yeah, I mean, I remember distinctly as a kid watching the fights and the physical fights and, you know, stuff like that, and just distinctly thinking, I will never be like that. Even as a kid, you know right and wrong, and you can make decisions already back then, you know, or someday I'm going to create a healthy family, and it's like ingrained, right? So if you're not surrounded by good people, ditch them and get around good people and start making decisions to make good choices and to be healthy and invest in yourself and develop yourself. I didn't need my future spouse telling me you should figure things out. No, I knew I needed to figure things out and not to bring any of that baggage, any of those bad habits into any of my future relationships. So you have some grown-up decisions to make.
What does it look like for both of you guys when you're initially dating? What does it look like to put God first in your relationship?
Yeah, we.
I mean, when we were 16, I don't know that we kind of knew the theory, but did we really do it? You know, I don't know. We were 16 and 7, right? Like, I think over time we did it. Certainly, I remember praying about it, right? Like we read Christian marriage preparation books.
Yeah.
We talked to our pastor. You know.
Yeah, I mean, we made a point to pray a lot with each other. That was a big thing that we decided early on, was that we would pray together. We just heard an interesting statistic recently about marriage, that half of marriages
over half
fall into divorce, right? So you know, it's a complete gamble. But when you've got a marriage couple that prays together, reads the word together, and what was the third one?
Attends church once a week together.
Attends church together, that it now becomes 1 in 1,800 or 18,000, 1,800 people. The chances are that marriage works. Like, is that the right way to say this?
Yeah, so instead of having a 50-50 chance,
It's
now
1 in
you're,
1,800.
yeah, now your chances of succeeding or of not making it are 1 in 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
2,000, yeah.
Yeah. So you've just upped your chances hugely by having a spiritual base and foundation that you make a part of your daily life.
Yeah.
So that was something, so that wasn't initial, like when you initially first started dating, but that was something that you got, because I guess both of you came with values, you kind of laid down and you guys started praying together, going to church together, and that you think made a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, God, for a successful marriage to happen, because God created marriage, God has to be a part of the equation to begin with. So we already were both individually very strong spiritual Christians. So it's very easy for us to incorporate God into our relationship as the third, because he was already instrumental in each of our lives independently. So yeah, we just started out early with God in our relationship.
And I think as our relationship progressed, like maybe not so much right in the beginning, but, you know, as we were planning, like, you know, was I going to actually go away to college? You know, well, yeah, we talked and prayed about that. Like, what was that going to look like? And then, you know, when we were separated for those 2 years, or mostly parts of those 2 years, like, you know, we had to work through some stuff, and that was, you know, prayer on the phone with each other and all that stuff. So yeah, it became more and more and more a part of our life. It's not like we were praying the first time we started dating, but.
So how did you guys do long distance? What did that look like?
Oh, you don't want to go there.
Well, like I said, lots of expensive phone bills. Absolutely.
Let's just say Karina was attractive to a lot of guys in California. And let's just say I was ready to load golf clubs in the back of my car with my buddies and come down and visit her and her new friends. But that never happened. A lot of prayer, a lot of talking things through, a lot of calming down.
Yeah, that was in the days where we actually wrote letters to each other, and he would send me postcards with nerdy pictures of himself for all the dorm to see, like, because we had these open mail slots, right? So yeah, he had pictures of him dressed up like a nerd with his nose in the air, and yeah, that was great. Yeah,
Canadian.
But a lot of prayer, you said, eh?
Yeah,
a lot of prayer.
You know, like I said, I think it was a hard time, but it was a healthy time because we had that distance so that we could weather it, but we could also look around, right? Like, I made other guy friends, which was a bit of an issue for a while, but, you know, I was like, well, why not? Like, I'm here, I'm going to get to know some people, right? So nobody beat Jim. So that was pretty easy, hands down.
Oh, good.
Good answer. That's so cute. We got another question here that someone asked. Why should I get married if it's so much work?
What part of life is not work? I don't get, like, okay, tell you what. Marriage is great. Marriage with kids is better. It's richer. So single life is great, but marriage is that much richer. We were designed to be in relationship. God designed marriage. He designed sex. He designed relationships. He designed all aspects of that. And he knew that we would be happiest when we had a helpmate, when we had somebody that could come alongside of us and do life together. It was that much exciting. So you could look at it as work. Part of me wonders, you know, that sounds like it's almost a bit of a selfish perspective.
That's what I was going to say.
Well, yeah. You know, like, you have to die to self in a marriage. You individually have to die so that you become one. The two of you individually have to become one. So is it work? Heck yeah. Is it a richer, fuller life? Absolutely. So I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, a marriage should bring you joy. Like if it's just all work, maybe not, maybe like it's not the right person. I don't know. Like it shouldn't be that hard. Like it's hard, but there should be joy and benefits that outweigh the hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. I like how you came in, Uncle. Just boom, whip him. Just let them know.
Oh,
let them know.
I'd better be quieter. So,
another one. What individual preparation did you guys do to be godly spouses to each other, or be a good spouse to each other?
It's a great question.
Well, like I said, I read that back in the day it was James Dobson, courtship books or whatever. I can't remember the title of it now. So I read the marriage prep books. I read Adventist Home. I talked to people who had good marriages. My parents, my grandma, my grandparents, grandma and grandpa and my grandma. Yeah.
And because I didn't come from a home where it was necessarily a strong marriage, they both loving, both, are so important to me. But I had to look for fruit on other people's trees. And one of the things I had to learn early was, there's your biological given family, and then there's your chosen family. Like, who do you choose? So I chose Karina's parents and had those crucial conversations with them. Like, hey, Cliff, that's her dad. What did you look for when you were looking for a spouse, and what's important to you in a marriage, and what advice do you have to give? Like, I wasn't afraid to look for counselors and people that would invest into me. I've sat down with so many pastors over the years and just drilled them. I think that they're godly men and have great advice and understand the roots of what marriage should be. And so we weren't afraid to sort of get out there and ask those questions. It was important to us. So we put in the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something that I was going to say earlier. I think to have a healthy relationship, like marriage relationship, you need healthy relationships outside of that first. Mm. So yeah, like we cultivated those relationships, like I said, with our parents, with, our pastors, with other people who we admired, and we took their input. It wasn't just us out there against the world to make it happen.
So I know you guys talked about, you guys were both on or in agreement of no sex before marriage. Another question we got was premarital sex, why or why not?
Oh.
Here we go.
No, that's another hour talk. Like, I am not joking. And that one gets my blood. That's seriously, I mean, short answer, that's the way God designed it. If you want me to get into more, that's going to have to be, you could find a lot of people that could speak on that, but that's a whole other conversation. God designed it that way. If you give yourself away to a lot of different people over the years, you're going to find you're not going to have much left to give when it comes to actually being with your spouse. And why would you hurt another person's spouse? When you're taking from them something so vital and so precious. But
that being said, lots of people have not been a virgin when they got married. So that doesn't mean your relationship is doomed, right? God can heal and God forgives, and he can make you new again in that way. So if you have, done that with one person or many people or whatever, that doesn't mean that you're doomed. Absolutely not, right?
Yeah, there's something called my second virginity, right? Oops, I made a mistake the first time. But now that I understand God's purpose in my life, now that I understand how God designed relationships, how he designed sexuality, how he designed how precious that is, that it's the deal sealer on your covenant with God in your marriage, sex, you can choose be celibate, not to be celibate, to be virgin. It's your second virginity. So you can correct a wrong. Yeah, definitely sex outside of marriage is it's just a recipe for disaster for sure.
There's multiple.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's multiple reasons.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how much time you want us to take, but yeah, there's.
We got like 5-10 minutes. You guys can go at it if you want.
Oh.
Just that initial response. I love it already.
Either you trust God or you don't. And to me, it's so biblical and his direction is so clear around that. You know, they didn't have dating in the Bible. They had covenants. And they had opportunities where they would invest into each other and family deals would be made. Like a dating was completely different back then. But even back then, it was understood that, you know, sexual, you know what? Tell you what, here's how I'll answer that question. Rob Bell, who, you know, he's got some controversies in life and all that sort of stuff, but he had a phenomenal DVD that talked about this very topic, sex before marriage. And he talked about how the Greek have many, I think it was like 16 different versions of love. And he talked about how oh man, this is really scraping my brain here, but talked about how there's filial love, there's eros love, which is sexual love, there's agape love, general love for mankind. And he said, you know, we've got it backwards in life. Even in Greek times, they had it where you had a general friendship and love for mankind. Then you would find somebody and develop an even better, stronger bond with them and get to know them. And then you would marry and it would become eros, or an erotic love, you know, a sexualized love. And here in society, it's backwards. You know, here we have sex with anybody. It's pleasurable. I go with my emotions. It feels good. And then you hope that you can become friends, good friends. And then you hope that you love each other and you love, you know, everybody else, but it's completely backwards. It's the opposite of what God designed it to be, or even what the Greeks understood. What was it? Flame?
Yeah.
Flame.
Yeah, Flame. Awesome DVD. I love it. It's one of my favorite, actually. It's worth finding and getting for sure. But that's just one example. Is the Greeks understood it so much better than our society even.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get pregnant before you're ready to be in a committed relationship and married, and you don't want diseases. So those are some practical reasons why not to.
Yeah. When a guy has sex with a marriage, and the marriage, when a guy has sex with a woman outside of marriage and has a baby, it's no longer fun. The sex was fun, but you know, it's no longer fun. Now there's work. So usually they bolt. Well, this is not what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for the work. I signed up for the fun, right? And so now you're running around with a lot of single moms that have kids, and you know, it's not what God designed. And so I would just, yeah, I'm gonna cool down now. Is it hot in here? Hot in here.
What we're gonna do? We're gonna probably leave that one because I know that is a big topic. We're gonna have a sex series here going on. We're gonna leave that. I don't know if I was supposed to say that.
It's a good note.
I think I would.
That's a perfect to be continued one.
To be continued. Yes, exactly. So thank you guys so much. I guess get a lot of feedback for saying that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for just joining us and being willing to just share your guys' experiences, being authentic. And Uncle Jim and you guys, I know you guys were holding back a little bit on these guys, but I think hopefully they got the message here. But thank you guys so much. I just want to take time to pray, inform you guys what else is happening, and then we'll leave it at that. Let's bow our heads real quick. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for just speaking through Uncle Jim and Auntie Karina, and just for allowing them to be authentic and knowing their story, and just for their experiences and from their experiences being able to share that with others and equip others and just be an example. Thank you for being with our youth group and allowing us to reach more people and continue having these lives, reaching out to people, especially during these times as we're still kind of practicing social distancing. But thank you for bringing everyone on the live that is here today, and be with the people that weren't able to make it. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. This is being recorded and will be up on our Crossing Youth YouTube channel. But yeah, thank you guys so much. This was awesome. You guys are hilarious. Look forward to having you guys on here, hopefully, again. But yeah, thank you all for coming, all the people that were able to hop on, and really excited for our next one. Thank you guys.
Good night.